In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Catherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym KA Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie. And I'm Chris.
And we are the Anidorks. These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
He's totally stuck in Morph, and we get to Chapman 19.
But now we're flying! Elfangor doesn't want to think about it yet, so we just take off. And Arbron, he's quickly committing to this adorable new form he has. His weak little Taxxon arms, they're weak, but they push all the right buttons, and suddenly the ship is taking off.
Ed, did you mean to...
What?
That sounded like OnlyFans content to me.
Why?
They push all the right buttons.
It says that.
They push all the right buttons. It's not the size of the boat, it's the motion of the ocean. It's not the size of the hand, it's the technique with which it's applied.
Yeah, just watch your tone.
Okay, the line is
our mothers listen to this podcast.
Arbron's weak Taxxon arms push all the right buttons, and I felt the soft vibration of the engines reaching full power.
Oh, you know what? I highlighted the shit.
I know. I thought
the
GED controller
Trying to
is
tee you
outside.
up for it, and you were like, "You're disgusting."
Hey, I vacillate hard from totally DTF to I don't even know what sex is, man.
Yeah, the GED controllers outside must have felt it too. Suddenly they stopped pounding on the ship. I didn't understand.
The ship was throbbing with vibration.
Ready,
Anyway.
I asked Arbron. Ready.
And then they launch the ship. And he's like, hang on tight. And then they don't really go anywhere.
Yeah. So the ship is apparently very slow. They start trying to take off, but the ship is not designed for atmospheres, which reminds me of that Futurama episode where they try to go up into space, but they crash into the ocean. And he's like, we're experiencing 10, 30, 100 atmospheres. And then someone asks, how many atmospheres was this ship designed for? And he's like, well, considering it's a spaceship, anywhere between 1 and 0.
Yep.
0
and 1.
We get a little bit of, they're talking about how long it'll take to take off, but they talk about the time matrix. Arbron suggests using it to escape through time. Elfangor's more reluctant.
He's worried about the Ellimist.
Yeah, and who they think invented the time matrix. They don't know who invented it, but it sounds like there's a lot of myths that it was the Ellimist who built the time matrix.
Yeah, and Arbron is like, look, the Ellimists aren't even real. And Elfangor's like, well, we thought the time matrix wasn't real, and now it is, so maybe it was them. Huh?
I've been having this feeling more and more the older I get, where it's everything about ancient history is the truth we seek. It's all of our existential crises. It's Babylon existed. There were smart people back then. There were people making podcasts back then. And there were and it's just we've done this so many times over, and there's some sort of mass cultural amnesia to it. It just freaks me out. It freaks me out that they even talk about it in this book this way.
What do you mean? Talk about what?
That the Ellimist is a mythical creature, but it's it's we think we know better, that mythological explanations of things didn't exist, but in theory, those mythological explanations might have come from some description of other events, and our understanding of ancient history is complicated. One of the things I think is really interesting is humans throughout history have always been really quick to underestimate their predecessors. And so when they would find ruins, they would say, no humans could have made this, the giants made this.
Yeah.
Or no blank could have, and it's we do the same thing today. We're aliens helped with the pyramids. It's the same basic logic.
No, the pyramids were batteries. That was remember on Survivor they were talking about this? They were saying...
Yeah, I do remember that. Emily couldn't get with it.
Yeah, she was not able
She was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, so we're about to break like galactical myth law, like we're about to commit a sin essentially. And what's the sin? We're not
Well, so it's about using the time matrix.
Oh, it's about using the time matrix.
So Elfangor has this fear that if they use it, it will like summon the Ellimists and they'll be mad. And he also says that his parents told him stories about the Ellimist when he was a child.
Yes.
But it all boils down to he doesn't want to use it, and Arbron's like, okay, but we can't, like, we're not going fast enough. We're not going to escape anybody. We're not even going to get out of atmosphere. So what are we going to do? And he's like, can
we take on a bug fighter?
Yeah, because now we've got bug fighters on our tail.
It's like, no way that's going to work. The Skrit Na only have, like, crap weapons, blah, blah, blah. The bug fighter has twin penetrator class Draken beams, which I can't tell how I feel about that.
That's what they are.
We can't trade shots with them because we'll lose, obviously. And they're slowly speeding up, but to get to escape velocity, and I looked this up. Did they say this already? Yeah. Escape velocity on Earth is about 11 kilometers a second, which is very, very, very fast.
What is escape velocity?
How fast you have to be going to get out of the atmosphere.
Oh.
Yeah. And without atmosphere, it's like even more rudimentarily, even without atmosphere.
To escape the pull of gravity.
Yes. It's like how fast you have to go that when you fall, you miss the Earth. If you go up in space, you fall to Earth. If you're in orbit, you're falling forward such that you always miss the Earth.
That's true.
And you have to go a certain speed to always overshoot the Earth. If I'm wrong, leave us a comment in the Patreon,
leave us a 5-star review.
Leave us a 5-star review,
tell
Richard, if we're wrong, and we'll have to read it on the air. Yeah, tell us how wrong we are, but not in the stars. We need all 5 of those stars. If it's a 1-star review, ain't touching with the 10-foot pole.
So then Elfangor has this idea. They are slow in general, but bug fighters are bad in atmosphere. They're especially slow and they can't handle high heat. So if they're going really fast near the ground, they might just explode.
And because this is some sort of weird, perverted Skrit Na ship that is constantly lowering itself onto planets to terrorize the poor populations there, this ship will do just fine.
Yeah, this is like something between a spaceship and a land speeder in my brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that is an apt metaphor because we're about to get into some fucking pod racing.
Hell yes.
So they're trying to go low such that they just build up more and more speed. They're giving up on space as a thing. And oh my God, this part blows my mind. Elfangor's like, I can't use the screens. We're flying so low. I need to see. And doesn't he pop a fucking
Says open a window. Yeah. And he looks out it.
Which is amazing because he's about to try and get going so fast, so low to the Taxxon Earth that he builds up friction with the air that will explode bug fighters, and yet his own forehead is not going to burst into flames. Like, it's so mind-blowing. Like, you could just imagine, like, his little eye stalks burning off, but he's fine. He's just like, no, I just got my head out the window and it's...
Okay. No. Unfortunately, they just turn a panel clear.
Oh, thank God. Because the first time, thank God, I'm so glad. Because he does say, I need direct vision, real time, real aspect, open a window.
Yeah.
You can understand my confusion.
No, but then Arbron plays with his console, and suddenly the panel in front of them became a window, and he says, I could see the superheated air blazing around the ship. His head's not in there.
Okay, that's good because that would be remarkably weird.
Do you think they're just having fun with the language there? Like you think we would think that would mean opening the window, but then
I think KA is some sort of super genius and Michael Grant is the devil, and I think that they're paired together. They're here to torture poor young me, who's now 32, and they're just trying to make a fucking fool out of me at this advanced age. Mm-hmm.
So they rocket toward the ground and then slide along try to slide along it.
as low as they can. Right. They're not actually touching it, but this is a Mission Impossible fighter jet ship for sure. Like, and they're going as fast as they can. And we get this other thing where he like sets us up. This is kind of a foreshadow to driving in the desert later, but he's like, going fast in space, you have like essentially you have no context, but going way slower than you would go in space, but close to the Earth, it's a totally different exhilarating feeling.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the description of The Fly when they did The Fly way back in.
Yeah.
We get a kind of a nerdy section here where it's like they're reading off. It's like, fine, I muttered, let's see who's faster. And I raised the burn and I felt a slight lurch as the engines pushed harder and we're trying to go faster than the bug fighters. And then Arbron starts reporting the speed. He's like 3,200 miles per hour, 3.3K, 3.4K. Hull temperature is, you don't want to know that, 3.5K.
It's very like, cute.
3,500 miles per hour. The ground was a blur. We were a blazing meteorite.
But then there's a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They notice the mountain a little too late and start to pull up on the yoke as hard as they can. And they're just in line with the mountain and they're just picking up at the same slope. They get to the top.
They're also setting everything on fire in their wake.
Yeah.
Yes, they're going so fast that they're creating heat pressure that is burning the trees they didn't tell us existed. But the bug fighters didn't fly as stupidly, so they caught up.
Well, they know the
and
planet. They're used to this Taxxon homeworld, so they've accommodated for them. Yeah.
And now it's shooting time. This is where, like, I think, do we get one explosion?
One explodes in the heat. One explodes before
One
we
bug
shoot.
fighter explodes in the heat just from the friction of the air alone.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I'm kind of surprised about. How did they not talk about sonic booms? Because they're like the thermals of going fast.
Yeah.
Sonic booms were like the coolest thing to me as a kid. And if they had put them in this book, I might have read it.
Yeah. We do get, we were approaching the dividing line between night and day. I could see it rushing toward me, and that's pretty cool.
That's fucking dope. Yeah, that's really cool.
But so they've still got one bug ship on their tail, and they're not sure what to do. And Arbron's like, we gotta make a shot. They won't expect it.
And Elfangor, for some reason, gets very pessimistic and is like, you can't make this shot. This isn't the shot you can make.
But Arbron's like, I can make that shot.
Elfangor says, with Taxxon eyes? Taxxon reaction times? With Skrit Na targeting computers? And Arbron just says,
I can make the shot, Elfangor. We get a little moment where Elfangor says, look, Arbron, I want to come out of this alive. And Arbron's like, you're assuming that I don't care if I live or die, and that's why I'm doing this, but I'm telling you, I can make this shot.
For some reason, it becomes a captain's decision, even though he can make the shot. Like, I'm not sure what he's doing otherwise, but, like, I'm not sure what the risk is. Is there risk?
They're going to slow down to make the shot. They're going to stop.
Oh, so they're ditching one plan for the other. Gotcha.
So Elfangor punches the brakes, and the ship, for some reason, says, Shrek!
Which hadn't even come out yet. Yeah. This is right at the beginning of Chapter 20. The Skrit Na ship shook, it buckled, it rattled, it vibrated, it bounced wildly just 50 feet off the grass. Our speed dropped from nearly 3,500 miles per hour down to half that in mere seconds, which we should run a calculator for G-forces and see if they would die. Too fast for the bug fighters to react. And what happened next would make Arbron a hero. This book is deceptive because Arbron kind of is becoming the Neo of the book. Like, he is like, you know, it's his time.
Yeah, that's true.
He is the one.
So they're almost at a stop, or functionally at a stop, and the bug fighters go shooting past them, and in quick succession, Arbron fires 3 shots at 3 targets, doing a relative speed of 1,500 miles per hour in atmosphere from a vibrating, bucking wreck of a Skrit Na ship, and he hits every damn one. And he downs each ship. Mm-hmm. And then Arbron shouts out Taxxon's senses and reflexes, says they're actually kind of good at this.
Yeah, which we knew. We were always Taxxon believers, but Arbron and Elfangor are just catching up.
How many seconds would you say it was that they were slowing down?
It says in mere seconds. I'd say that's less than 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You want to give me a number?
Call it
7.
9. I was going to be generous.
8? I'll go in the middle.
Chris, go with 8.
11 Gs. That's a lot of... Yeah, 11 Gs. I don't know if that's
big squish material.
How many Gs are fatal? Most of us can withstand 4 to 6 Gs. Fighter pilots can manage 9 Gs for a second or two, but sustained G forces of even 6 G would be fatal. Astronauts endure 3 G on... Yeah, okay, so like 11 Gs might really, really, really hurt you.
And Elfangor, his hooves have no grip. He's just slipping.
That's true on this Skrit Na ship.
Yeah.
Taxxon's got lots of little grippy hands, though.
Yeah, I sprawled across the deck, but Arbron's rows of adorable Taxxon legs absorbed the punishment. He never wavered. He kept his Taxxon claws on the targeting controls. We don't hear about those claws very often.
Big, meaty claws.
Didn't he say two-fingered Taxxon claw?
He does say two-fingered Taxxon hands at some point.
See, we need those numerical descriptions.
Elfangor's like, listen, great job. We're gonna get you out of this Taxxon morph somehow. But it does not seem like they know of a way to actually do that. So, hate to break it to Tobias, but even when the Andalites get here, unless they cracked this in the next 20 years, which maybe they did.
Yeah. With Arbron stuck in this morph, we get a lot about just how much Andalites hate Taxxons, but I kind of feel like it's just other creatures in general. Like, in that moment when Arbron talks about the Taxxon senses and reflexes, he does also say it's nice to know there's something useful about this disgusting body. Yeah. And then, kind of Elfangor's fear and just disgust is just about the idea of being... It's specifically Taxxons, but about being any other race. Right. Like he says, we're going to find a way to get you out of this morph.
Cuts him off and says, it's like his friend is acclimating, even accepting. And he's like, I'm still in
don't you
denial.
dare get comfortable.
Yeah.
Don't you learn to love yourself the way you are. We're going to fix you.
And he says, till that moment, I'd been too busy trying to stay alive to really think about what had happened to Arbron. Maybe we'd never exactly been best friends, but it was still horrible to look at his foul Taxxon body and think that this was how he would remain. To look into those emotionless red jelly eyes and realize that he was in there looking back at me. It's just that he doesn't know how to read emotion in those eyes, right?
Right, exactly. Like, he's entirely the scummy one here. Like, he is entirely the one who's valuing Taxxons with Andalite values and just not even meeting them where they're at. Like, he is... prime candidate for bigotry.
Yeah, he's a space
Andalites
racist.
are not fun to deal with. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So then we have to start talking about what we're going to do next.
Yeah, big plot drip here. We
come down from this a little bit. There's an immediate, but it kicks back up again in just a second because he's like, well, we got to save the humans, right? So we gotta figure out a way. We need to land, and then we'll need to find a way to save the humans. And he's like, what? We're gonna save Aloran, right? And he's like, no, like everyone. And he's like,
yeah, but everyone's your girlfriend.
But
right?
like, what? I can't go back there. They'll eat me. They'll just eat me. Elfangor.
Why would they eat him? Because he's an Andalite and trapped in Taxxon?
Well, he's a Taxxon, and Taxxons love to eat Taxxons.
Oh, so he just means they just eat each other.
It's just a high risk. Yeah. I think so. I think it's just a high risk scenario. It's like...
Because he's feeling it. He knows it. That Taxxon hunger. He has it even now.
An especially scrumptious looking Taxxon.
That's
probably.
right. Extra wiggly. And he's like, that's it. I'm using the time matrix. I'm going home. I'm done. And he's like, you can't do that, man. Calm down.
The power signature will be visible to every ship in orbit, every satellite.
Yeah, and it's Arbron saying this, right? Because it's Arbron who said this about dumping the Yeerks into space. Like, a lot of this stuff has been foreshadowed, which is kind of cool.
So the reasoning that Arbron gave for not dumping the Yeerks is now the reasoning that Elfangor is giving Arbron for not using the time matrix. So actually, it is a nice parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
do we think either of those...
Yeah.
We didn't think that there was probably that much risk of the Yeerks seeing these, like, expelled Yeerks, right? From the pool.
They thought the risk was high. The heat signature alone,
it seemed like a real possibility.
They were too close to the planet for it not to get picked up by something.
And so we think there's actually a chance the power signature here could endanger them if they were to use the time matrix.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking.
He cuts in and says, I don't care if I die. I don't care if I die. Just let this hunger stop. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it, you fool. Yeah. Don't you know I could eat you right now?
Yeah.
I turned my eyes towards Arbron. I knew that inside there was a scared Andalite a wrist. But what I actually saw was the nightmare worm. What I saw was the sloppy red eyes, the round, gasping, eternally hungry mouth.
And then Arbron's like, fuck it. I'm gonna eat you. That's how he acts anyway.
Yeah.
He charges at him and screams.
I think
He smashes his body on him.
I think he's kind of trying to force Elfangor's hand here, right?
I absolutely
yep.
think that's what he's doing. He's saying,
Yep,
if you're going back there, you're not going with me.
Yeah.
Elfangor dodges out of the way, but he slams into the instrument panel and starts damaging the ship. They get into a fight. He slashes off some of his Taxxon arms, and then he screams, "Just kill me."
Arbron
Which
screams,
is so
just
devastating.
kill me.
Yeah. They seem to calm it down for a second. They start to argue.
He says, you can't leave me like this. And Elfangor says, I'm going to get you help, but I have to land this ship.
Because now, if he was worried about getting eaten before by the other Taxxons, now he's just like a wounded Taxxon.
That's right. Arbron points out that as a wounded Taxxon, like, that's what they couldn't keep themselves from eating earlier. All the other Taxxons. And actually, as we're about to learn, Aloran and Arbron were also eating that dead Taxxon. They could not resist the hunger.
So Elfangor's like, I can't land the ship and deal with this heightened thing at the moment. I think I have to stun Arbron.
Yes.
He reaches into the glove compartment and gets out a Draken beam and sets it to sun. Old and dusty and probably badly maintained like most Skrit Na things. He found the power setting and set it at its lowest intensity. What are you doing? Arbron yelled. I have to land the ship. Arbron, keep quiet or I'll stun you. If you fire that thing, this is a brilliant play
This
by
is amazing.
Arbron. I love this. This is so fast. And to think that he's so heightened in emotion, but also still clocking what's going on. He says, if you fire that thing, you'll kill me. You have the settings backward. That's originally a Yerk weapon. Setting 1 is the highest setting, not the lowest. Which tracks, because the Visser count goes towards 1.
Yeah.
So,
He's like, Arbron's gonna run at me, he's running at me, and this is all I can do. He's trying to force me to shoot him with a Dracon beam set on maximum, so I twisted the dial to 10, and then he says, and just as my finger was tightening on the trigger, I realized Arbron had outsmarted me. He'd lied, and I'd fallen for it. Arbron had always been a better student than me. He was a qualified exodatologist. He knew alien systems far better than me. I tried to stop, but my fingers squeezed. The Dracon beam fired on maximum power.
big moment. And there, just like when Shannon shot at John Locke, just missed by an inch and blew open a hole in the side of the ship. They just wrecked their only ship that can get them back.
That's right.
And the ship goes careening and down to the ground, which, you know, wasn't the farthest it's ever fallen.
Yeah.
But so Arbron convinced him to set a phaser to maximum by telling him it was setting the phaser to stun so that he would kill him.
Yeah, yeah.
He intentionally tricked him into trying to kill him.
Yeah, it's so fucking dark. It is so, and it's like, it's very dark.
We breezed over
It might be like...
a line that, Miranda, you mentioned this, though, that Arbron confesses to what happened after Elfangor resisted the urge to eat that Taxxon.
Yes.
He says, you can't protect me. Fool, nothing can stop them. Nothing can stop the hunger. I couldn't stop it. Aloran couldn't stop it. Don't you understand? I ate Elfangor. I ate that wounded Taxxon. I couldn't help myself. And just that line, I ate Elfangor, like,
Yeah.
is so unsettling. Like,
I kind of wish they'd gone with fed, but I actually don't know that would have made it better. It's like, I fed Elfangor. Like, so that makes it feel vampire-y, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can still be a good guy and a vampire if you've never fed, right? But like, once you fed,
yeah, yeah.
it's too late.
I kind of feel like, and this is something I guess we can track the rest of the way through it, but talking about it today, like we talked about the hunger, and that the hunger seems to have like that Taxxons have, and that Elfangor and Arbron are so afraid of, seems like it has like this really like powerful like resonance to it. And I kind of think them, and like Elfangor looking at Arbron is Elfangor seeing what he's afraid of becoming too with the Taxxon.
Yes.
And I think there's something to that and this, what the warrior has become for the Andalites. Like there's this, it's not just, like Alarin's like, there's nothing honorable about war. Like it's just killing. It's kill or be killed. But nowadays Andalites are trying to repackage it as, they're like philosophers and scientists. There's something elevated. And he's like, no, this is what war is actually. We're trying to hide what war is, but it's actually just this. And I feel like that thread is continuing with like this Taxxon hunger. And like there's something raw and primal about it. And Elfangor and Arbron want to believe that they're nothing like that. And I feel like there's something that the book's building there. Do you know what I mean? Like there's some kind of what war really is and how they're trying to be something more than that or something more honorable than that.
Yeah, there's been a consistent fear of reverting to base instincts in this book, which was pretty prevalent at this time, I feel like. Like werewolf symbolism and stuff can get very mixed in with that. Not as much vampire, but I feel like werewolves and things like that were very popular in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to like this fear that we won't be able to control ourselves by becoming too close to sort of a state of nature sometimes is how they sort of portray it, which I think is interestingly juxtaposed with what we'll see as sort of like an anti-urban bias that also exists in these books. It's somehow like pro-nature, but anti-human nature.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that makes sense. The monsters are all human.
And all of this,
Yeah.
I think, connects to the swarm thing we've seen in the books. I think the most interesting thing, though, and we're not there yet, is that I do think we're seeing something new for however these books are trying to make sense of that tension with the mountain Taxxons, which we're getting to soon. Because they're kind of a swarm, but they're a swarm that's working differently than what we've seen before. Yeah.
It is interesting how much I feel like this book applies massively to what happens just after these books come out in terms of the American reaction to the Iraq War and like nativist and primal nativist tendencies versus like some sort of more refined and more acceptable sort of diplomatic tendencies, but at the end of the day, they all fucking voted for the war. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and so I think it's really, I mean, the Iraq War wasn't happening, so maybe it's not as brave quotes, because they weren't pushing against that directly at the time. But I think it is brave in America at all to come out and try to say, hey, even these like seemingly philosophical and morally wise people who are fighting this war where they seem to be on the side of good aren't as black and white or as non-warmongers as you may think they are.
Yeah.
They have these tendencies, and to draw a line between them and an actual completely primal war-based creature is a bold stance.
Yeah, trying to package something as more or elevated, but it's actually, you're just trying to dress up something that is the same as it's ever been.
Yeah. And growing up, that was a theme, I think, that you guys probably very vividly remember. But like, you know, I think it was a very military is honorable time in the country. And like, again, not shitting on anybody who makes that choice, but it was being crammed down our throats. Like it was everywhere that is a career option for you, that could change your life. You could go do this, blah, blah, blah. And like video games were very war oriented, and the military picked up on that. I think they even worked with a game company to make a game that was a recruitment tool.
I have seen them at more than one convention with booths set up, which is like, you know, play somebody from the Navy in video games and see how your game skills could translate to a career in the Navy.
Yeah,
like,
I think they've recruited through
like,
Call of Duty, and America's Army was the game that they made. Yeah,
America's Army, I think, was the one that actually was like you're running a squad, like you actually.
they
boss
made that
people
game.
around.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and G4 was all military ads. Military ads or Girls Gone Wild and pornography or whatever. It was all just like
Two things American men love most.
yeah.
War and titties.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon!